Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of this F1 25 Joshua Pearce career mode with ourselves driving for Apex GP in our first season. Welcome to part 11 of the series, and if you did miss the last episode, oh boy was it a good one. We finally did it. We got our first career victory at the Canadian Grand Prix, and wow, it was also the team's first ever win. The pressure was definitely taken off a little bit with Max Verstappen receiving a penalty under the safety car, but he was still there in the picture as he slowly got the gap down in the final stint after the safety car restart and getting past Lewis Hamilton as well to try and chase us down. Max Verstappen, though, despite his winning streak coming to an end, he extends the championship lead to 71 points over Lando Norris. Yuki Tsunoda's in third, 109 points behind, and myself in 7th position, 19 points behind George Russell. And our teammate Sonny Hayes, he breaks inside the top 10 as well, 3 points behind Jack Doohan. Red Bull lead the Constructors' Championship by 82 points to McLaren. Ferrari sit third, 147 points behind. And Apex GP, we're now 5th, only 3 points behind Mercedes. And we'll take a look at the aerodynamics. We've got a minor drag reduction upgrade by getting new wheel rim covers and looking to rush this one in to get it in before Austria, since it will be a massive gain to have less drag on the car around the track with so many straights and so many high-speed corners. We also have 4 new upgrades on the car this weekend: an MGUH upgrade, energy store, control electronics, and a rotor speed upgrade. Unfortunately, the wheel room covers I wanted for this weekend failed, so once we get enough points again, we'll have to purchase that one once more, and we'll have a look at the bigger picture. McLaren and Red Bull have had a large gain in performance this weekend to pass ourselves, but now we are still on par with them on our performance at the moment. Ferrari now jump Mercedes on performance, and they'll also be closing the gap to the front, so the top 5 realistically are now starting to get quite close together. And Sauber have also made some massive gains, and they're no longer the slowest car on the grid, and despite being race winners this season, Alpine now fall to the bottom of the pecking order as we get ready for qualifying.
High up in the mountains, here at Spielberg, it's time for qualifying on what will be the fastest laps of the season. Stand by for qualifying at the Austrian Grand Prix.
It is the shortest lap time of the calendar, with lap time should be around about the 1 minute 3, 1 minute 4-ish sort of mark, depending on how good of a lap that we can get in. Definitely one of my favourite circuits to lap around here as we end our first flying lap here in the first part of qualifying. The sun's out, we're on the soft tyres, and it's 5 flat, so the track's definitely going to be getting faster. And by the time we get to the end of qualifying, Russell's fastest in Q1 by 800 to Oscar Piastri, and there it's a 4.9, so the track definitely ramped up towards the end. We ended up in P3. Our teammate Hayes is in 4th, only 700s behind us, and knocked out in qualifying 1. Lance Stroll, Alex Albon, Oliver Behrman, Jack Doohan, Nico Hulkenberg, and Isaac Hadjar not making it to this next part of qualifying. But between the end and now the start of Q2, things have changed quite a bit. I thought it was a mistake that the team was going to send us out on the intermediates, but sure enough, we've headed out onto the track, and it is wet. Somewhere along the lines, the forecast, which said it was meant to be beautiful and sunny all race weekend, has changed, and a spot of rain has come in, which is now probably going to shoot us in the foot a little bit, as we can see there. We've scraped through in P10. We're 4 tenths clear of George Russell, but it was a P10 nonetheless, not a very comfortable margin getting into qualifying 3 for the final part here, and I am definitely shot in the foot here. I am not running as set up, but that's going to be good enough. These wet conditions, as knocked out is George Russell and Kimi Antonelli, making it 2 Mercedes, gone. Last year's real-life winner, gone in P11. Norris and Piastri also knocked out. Hamilton, Lawson, also gone in this second part of qualifying, and those are very big names to not make it out into this Q3, as the conditions have been getting worse as well. We're now out on the full wets, so this is definitely playing into the hands of everyone else inside this top 10. And you can just see how much we're struggling here. We're running nearly fully off the circuit there at the penultimate corner here in Austria. Bortoletto goes into P2. Sainz in the Williams now goes fastest. Our teammate Hayes drops it into P2. But for us, we're currently P10. We've found a 7/10 of a second, 6/10 now of a second improvement. But is it going to be enough? It puts us P9. And we'll go out for one more lap here on a brand new set of the wets and try and see if we can't get another lap. But you can just see that there is so little grip here, because I'm running that little wings at the moment, since this track is just pretty much straight lines except for the middle sector, that when I'm going through the corners, I've got absolutely no rear grip and I've got no front turn. So it is quite the struggle, and you can see that in the end, that last part of the lap was so terrible that we lost of the 3/10 improvement that we did have. And in the end, Max Verstappen, at Red Bull's home race, he will get pole position by 3/10 of a second ahead of Charles Leclerc. Yuki Tsunoda will line up in third. He was half a second behind, so quite a large margin, just 1.6 seconds covering the top 10, and it's Bortoletto in 10th for the Austrian Grand Prix. A couple of other drivers is a bit of a shock to see. Ocon in the Haas and Alpine, they're the slowest car, remember, and Gasly has put it P8, so a brilliant drive there from Pierre Gasly, and the wet weather conditions definitely proving that he kind of equalises the field as we now head to the Grand Prix.
This is it then, race day in Spielberg for this year's Austrian Grand Prix. Not long to go before our drivers hurtle off the line and into the first turn, the Niki Lauda curve. It was renamed in 2019 in memory of one of Formula One's most beloved figures. The Spielberg circuit then is situated 700 metres above sea level, with just 10 corners making up one of the shortest laps of the season. One time around here is a distance of around 2.6 miles, with the best overtaking chances into turn 1 or the tight uphill of turn 3. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. World champion Max Verstappen starts from pole position, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Tsunoda, Sainz, Sonny Hayes, and Ocon, Gasly, Pearce, Bortoletto, and George Russell, Antonelli, Norris, and Sir Lewis Hamilton, and Lawson, Piastri, Fernando Alonso, Alex Albon, and Ollie Behrman, Doohan, Hulkenberg, Hadja, and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. And striding into our commentary box to join us today, the man, the myth, the legend, Anthony Davidson. So much to talk about on what is such a short lap. It's the fastest lap times of the season, but that doesn't mean it's not a challenge.
It's a real challenge to get right this circuit. Lots of tight corners linked up with very long straights. You've got 3 DRS zones as well. That means that the racing is often very close, and you can hang on to potentially a faster car if you can stay within that 1 second buffer. But you've then got some higher speed corners like turn 6 and 7 in the middle of the track, and then the 2 final corners as well. Track limits. Yep, there we go. I mentioned it. Be careful.
Okay, radio check. Radio check. Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
With the conditions now drier, these are definitely times where I feel like I can probably make a little bit of a recovery drive here. The default strategy, though, is mediums to hard, but I'm looking at how bad the tyre wear is at the end of those stints, and it's making the alternate strategy, a 2-stop, look very, very appealing, and in the end, I am actually going to be going for the alternate strategy. The 2-stopper is on the cards here as we get ready for the Austrian Grand Prix, and we're away. And it's a pretty good start for ourselves. We're going to go up against the wall to try and get past Esteban Ocon, and we get all squeezed towards the wall. But we get by, and we now go down the inside of Pierre Gasly, use a bit of curb on the inside of turn 1, and now we're going to use a lot of our battery to try and pass Gasly here and get ourselves to the back of the battle pack up ahead of us. It's going to be 3 wide, Tsunoda, Sainz in the middle, and our teammate Sonny Hayes goes down the inside, a little bit of contact. We make contact to the back of Sonny Hayes, but we get the better drive, and now that is us past our teammate. We're up into P5. Remember, we started 8th position, and now it's 3 wide once again, as now we break down the hill into the right-hander, and that is going to be us now into 3rd position, 3rd, and that is going to be essentially a net gain of 5 positions before we even finish the opening lap of the Grand Prix. Carlos Sainz, though, he's going to continue trying to go side by side with Yuki Tsunoda, but in the end has to slot in behind the Red Bull. Our teammate Hayes ends up P6, Gasly, Ocon, Russell, and the Bortoletto still holds that P10 position, the final points-paying position of the Grand Prix so far, but the battle is going to continue on to lap 2. Carlos Sainz looking like he doesn't want to stick behind the Red Bull of Yuki Tsunoda for much longer, and he'll put himself now up into P4. And Austria here is one of those tracks where the AI can battle really, really well. We saw it in last year's game, even with all the complaints about the AI. I personally had fantastic battles with the AI, and that was even without the AI mod that was available for last year's game. And we can see here that even with the latest AI update to make them race a lot better than they previously have, the battling is still really good, especially around the tracks where the DRS is so important as we now go down the inside of Charles Leclerc, and that is us now up into P2. We're definitely making use of these medium compound tyres. Max Verstappen's next on our list. He's on the hards and he's 2.4 seconds up the road, but we have to keep Charles Leclerc behind us because I do not want to get stuck behind someone who's on the hard tyres when essentially they start becoming much better than my mediums, because my mediums will be falling off the cliff much sooner than anyone else is around. And you can see that we're still maintaining our position ahead of Charles Leclerc. As behind us though, the gap is starting to open out. It's now over 3 seconds to Carlos Sainz, who now leads this train, and he's just got himself by our teammate Sonny Hayes. But the straight line speed of this Apex GP car is actually really good, especially in the hands of Sonny Hayes, who's probably going to be running lower wings than myself. I've actually bumped up my wings just a tiny little bit to try and give myself a bit more pace through the middle sector, because if I'm planning on being in the DRS for a good majority of the race, then the DRS can kind of aid my straight line deficit. So hopefully the middle sector is going to be where we can really shine and try and catch up to Max Verstappen in front of us. That gap has come down now to 2.1 seconds, now less than 2 seconds as I was saying that. And behind us now, the Ocon is battling with Pierre Gasly here and Lando Norris. Norris on the recovery drive, remember, he qualified outside the top 10. And so he's going to be trying to gain some valuable points here as his championship rival, Max Verstappen, leads the Grand Prix, and he is now down into P8. So this is going to be another big swing of points if it stays like this in the favour of Max Verstappen to try and get his 5th World Championship and 5th consecutive World Championship, as our teammate continues to battle it out here with Carlos Sainz. And you can see that the gap has actually opened back out to 2.4 seconds, but I've now started noticing that my traction speed is actually much better. So out of all the slow corners where the traction is much more important, that's where I'm gaining on Max Verstappen. And so the middle sector, not so much. He's still able to pull out a little bit on us, but you'll see there as well, we got our first objective, which we must keep Charles Leclerc behind. So I brought a small point to this earlier, that I need to be able to keep Leclerc behind me, because when his tyres start becoming much better than my mediums, because they will be falling off a cliff much sooner than the hards will, I need to make sure he's behind me, because if I get stuck behind me, I'm going to lose touch with Charles Leclerc, and that could possibly mean ultimately loss of track position as well, especially if we're going to be on the same strategy. But we are not too sure of that just yet, because a lot of the drivers have actually started on the hards. You can see here the two guys on screen, George Russell and Yuki Tsunoda, who continue to battle it out through this middle part of the circuit, but it's going to be Tsunoda getting the better of George Russell. They're both on the hard compound tyres, so a lot of the AI have started this Grand Prix on the hards. As the battle now continues into turn 1, Russell once again trying to get past Yuki Tsunoda, but this time he will. But because the field is so tightly compacted still, everyone has got DRS off of each other. But Hayes and Sainz, they've broken away from this battle, so it's now over a second between Tsunoda and Russell. So hopefully my teammate here, with that straight line speed that we saw that he had early, being able to get past Carlos Sainz, who had the DRS, and Hayes, he didn't have the DRS, managed to get past. Hopefully his straight line speed can actually protect him from being overtaken, and we could possibly be looking at a podium for myself if all goes well, and maybe a P4 for Sonny Hayes if things go well, which will be an absolute wicked result for the team, as we now have a very good car underneath us. We've been working really hard behind the scenes to get all these R&D parts on the car, and in practice, which I do off camera, I have been making sure I get every single practice program completed to try and get the maximum amount of points I can from each race weekend to give me the best opportunity to try and make this a front-running car, which, based off Canada and getting that race win, I think we're absolutely there, especially considering last race we were absolutely the fastest car on track. And so far this race weekend, we have been maybe second best, if not third best race car on track, which is very, very good and proven by our second and fourth positions at the moment. Tsunoda, though, he is leading this pack, but Norris is looking to try and get himself through on George Russell. This will be another position gain and another little bit of damage limitation, but unfortunately he couldn't get the move done, and in the end Russell is going to be able to get back by Yuki Tsunoda, as that gap to Carlos Sainz is actually now slowly starting to drop. They're not pulling away as much now that this battle has kind of calmed down just a little bit. They're not going side by side as much as they have been previously, will now cross the line to start lap 11. That gap is now eking out to Max Verstappen. The gap now 2.9, pretty much 3 seconds to Max Verstappen. We complete the task of keeping Charles Leclerc behind, but we get it all wrong on the exit. At turn 1, we get up on the sausage curd, break into a bit of wheel spin, and that is now going to leave us very vulnerable to Leclerc. And he'll look to our outside here at turn 3. We've got the inside, a little bit of curb usage on the inside. We'll try and get the better traction down, but we just quite can't get it. A tiny little bit of wheel spin. These tyres are starting to go off at just that tiny bit. I can really feel it, especially through the middle sector. I don't have the turn in that I really want. We run deep into the next braking zone though. Charles Leclerc, a beautiful switchback on us. A very good racing here from the AI. We'll use a bit of battery to try and get back up the inside, and we'll try and give him the squeeze on the exit, run him all the way up on top of the AstroTurf there, but we'll get the position back from Charles Leclerc. And now, Marcus reminded me, it is time to box. We're boxing this lap for another set of medium compound tyres. It's a very awkward pit lane entry here in Austria, with the entry being on the apex or the penultimate corner, so sometimes that can cause a bit of chaos with all the AI cars coming into the lane and then continuing trying to take the racing line. But anyways, we are in the lane for the medium compound tyres. We will be boxing from position number 2. It's an optimal turn-in, so estimated stop, 2.4 seconds. What is it going to be? 2.4. Excellent stuff. So now, it's all about the rejoin now. At the moment, we currently sit P9, but we'll lose that to Pierre Gasly, so hopefully we can try and make very quick work of the Alpine here on these fresh medium compound tyres. So against these old and hard tyres that everyone else is currently running, we should be absolutely rapid. And now that we've done our first pit stop here, we're going to take a look at the order before everyone else starts coming in for a stop. So it's Max Verstappen leading the way ahead of Charles Leclerc, and our teammate now takes P3 after our pit stop. Then it's George Russell, Yuki Tsunoda, Lando Norris in P6 trying to do some damage limitation. Lewis Hamilton, Esteban Ocon, Pierre Gasly, and ourselves currently rating out the points. And it's Bortoletto, Piastri, Antonelli, Albon, Alonso, Hulkenberg, Lawson, Behrman, Hadjar, doing Sainz and Lance Stroll rounding out the field at the moment. As now we're looking to try and get past Esteban Ocon. It's a very late move on the brakes, and we're using our superior grip to great use, setting a purple middle sector and getting past Esteban Ocon. And so that is us now up into P6, and with more people coming into the lane, we're moving up the field, and we're going to do a very identical move onto Lewis Hamilton, but he does a small swerve under the brakes there, and it puts me off, and we cause a little bit of contact there. Side pod to his probably front wheel, I'd imagine, on the Ferrari there, and in the end, hopefully, no damage has been occurred, but oh, that got a bit messy as we now make a very easy overtake on George Russell using the DRS, a bit of ERS, and now we just have to make sure we get turn 1 right, which we do, and now we should have the superior grip and speed to make sure that we stay ahead of George Russell as we now get our next objective of the Grand Prix, and we need to save a bit of fuel. We have actually been using quite a bit, 15 laps in, and we've used about half a lap worth of extra fuel than we probably would have liked. Ever since we had that issue in China, I have now kind of started being more on the cautious side, and overfilling the car may make the car a little bit heavier, but in the end, it's all about the fact that I can now essentially sprint to the end of these Grand Prix if the tyre wear is there for it. Max Verstappen, though, he'll box from the race lead. For ourselves, though, where is this going to put us on the rejoin? There he is, still in the pit lane. We'll go through the first corner at about the same time, but in the end, we will take that effectively P1 away from Max Verstappen. A few laps later, we've done really well, actually, to hold on for as long as we did from him on the soft compound tyres he is on. So a very quick middle stint this is probably going to be, and definitely confirming, though, he is going to be on a 2-stopper. Charles Leclerc, though, still hasn't come in for a stop yet. So I'm now starting to think, now it's lap 18, about to go into lap 19, which is pretty much half race distance. Charles Leclerc will be on a 1-stopper. So a very, very aggressive strategy here from Ferrari to try and claim their first victory of the season. And it's going to be all eyes on them to work out if this is going to be the strategy to be on. But for pretty much everyone else, it does seem like the 2-stopper is going to be the way to go, as we see Antonelli now get himself ahead of Yuki Tsunoda. Antonelli carving his way through the field quite nicely after his Q2 exit there, qualifying in at P12. We actually do manage to save enough fuel, so that is very good for us to know that. We do, unfortunately, just drop out of the DRS from Max Verstappen from having to save all of that fuel. But now that I don't have to worry about that objective, I'm definitely going to be now pushing much harder, especially knowing that I've still got one more stop to go. So I've definitely eased these new mediums on a little bit better than I probably would have done initially because of that fuel saving strategy, so it needed to make sure that I completed that. Charles Leclerc, though, now comes into the lane for, I am guessing, his one and only pit stop. It is going to be the medium tyres that is going on, so confirming that he will be going to the end on this set of tyres. So he boxes from P1. He'll drop to third position if a Russell does not manage to get him, and I don't think he will, but Hamilton will go through. So Hamilton now takes a third position away from Charles Leclerc, and Leclerc will slot in now just behind Lando Norris. So we'll need to keep an eye here on Leclerc to see what his pace is like on those mediums. We'll do another order check now that a lot of the stops have now been completed for the second phase of the race. Max Verstappen will lead the way ahead of ourselves, but we have, in that second stint so far, brought the gap down to only 1.5 seconds, and then it's Lewis Hamilton at the moment in third position. Lando Norris all the way now up into P4. Charles Leclerc, he's on the one stop, he's in P5. Our teammate, though, is now down into P6. Yuki Tsunoda, Kimi Antonelli, Esteban Ocon, and Carlos Sainz now rounds out the top 10. Then we've got George Russell, Nico Hulkenberg. He's currently battling it out with the Alpine of Pierre Gasly, with his teammate Bortoleto behind in P14. Alex Albon, Fernando Alonso, Oscar Piastri hasn't been able to make his way through the field, as well as Lando Norris has. He's still outside of the points down there in 17th. Jack Doohan, Lance Stroll, Oliver Behrman, and then the two RBs of Lawson ahead of Isaac Hadjar. As now we're taking a look here at Charles Leclerc. He is all over the back of Lando Norris. Is he going to be able to make a move on P4 here? He has to get by all of these guys yet to make another pit stop as quickly as possible. He goes down the inside at a place that you usually don't really see side-by-side racing, but he still proceeds to go side-by-side with Lando Norris. You see there, Lewis Hamilton now boxes from third position, and that is him now coming in for his final pit stop. They'll continue to go side-by-side. Leclerc down the inside, and is that going to be position done? It will be. That is him now up into third position, and now I can try and chase down ourselves. We're 16 seconds ahead of Leclerc as the battle. This battle's been going on pretty much all race. They're just at different phases of the Grand Prix, essentially. They've been in at different spots. So this battle initially was for about P5, P6, and now it is for P7, 8th, and 9th. As the race just continued and other people were able to jump them through pit stop phases. As now Verstappen and myself box on the same lap. You can see the tyre wear indicator is on our MFD. So these tyres were definitely cooking, and we were definitely pushing to try and keep up with Verstappen on those soft tyres. We now go in for a set of hards, and it's a slow stop. It's a 2 point... Well, the stop time was a 2.3. It was really good, but I messed up my clutch initiation there, and so I wasn't able to get the launch out the box that I really wanted. So you can see that I've lost a lot of time. The gap now is going to probably increase to over 3 seconds to Max Verstappen. Norris has actually jumped us into third position. He's still yet to come in for a stop, so I'm not too concerned about that. But our next objective, immediately straight out the pits, funny enough as well. We have to keep the tyres nice and cool. So I wonder if our mediums were starting to get a bit too hot, and that is why they started to wear a bit more quicker than I was probably anticipating. So far on both of our pit stops, immediately straight out the box, it is straight into some sort of saving mode. Last time out, it was save the fuel. This time out, we have to save the tyres, as Hulkenberg now is trying to get himself into P10, but in the end, well, into P9, but in the end, Hamilton too quick on his fresh tyres. And for ourselves, you'll see here, we're pushing quite hard actually to try and gain back that time to Max Verstappen. In the end, it's eked out to nearly 5 seconds, so we've lost a massive amount of time. I can put some of that down to the fact he is on the mediums, a faster tyre, but in the end, we fail the objective to save the tyres. I'm not too concerned about that, because I know with only 10 laps to go, I need to be pushing, as the battle ahead, though, is really spicing up. Verstappen takes the lead from Charles Leclerc. Leclerc, though, with the DRS detection point, he'll take the lead back from Max Verstappen, and this is a battle for the race win. Leclerc has done his one stop for the race. Max Verstappen on the two-stopper. He'll look to the inside once again, and look at the delta, though. We are now only 3 seconds behind. 2.8, 2.7, 2.6. The gap is plummeting. These guys battling is bringing me back into the picture of trying to battle for this race win. Verstappen, though, he will take the lead once more ahead of Charles Leclerc, but this time round, he now will extend his lead to 1.3 seconds, and so that is him now pretty much sealed the deal. He's on the fresher tyres than Charles Leclerc, so Max Verstappen is looking very strong for the race win. For ourselves, though, we're now only 1 second behind Charles Leclerc, so we're not too far away ourselves of trying to see if we can't get ourselves past Leclerc. Hamilton is on a charge. He's now looking to get himself past Lando Norris, and he looks to the outside at turn 3. Is he going to be able to get the better traction? He can't get the better traction, but he's got the DRS on Norris. And in front, there's a lot of smoke, and that is George Russell from 4th position. George Russell, engine failure in his Mercedes. It was a terrible qualifying, being knocked out in qualifying 2, and it will get even worse here in Austria. The real-life Grand Prix winner from a year ago is out here in F1 25, and we make our move on Leclerc, but we get it all crossed up. We've gone too deep into our braking zone, and now this is going to allow Leclerc to try and get another shot at getting P2 away from us. But thank you, George Russell. Because of his engine failure and where he's parked up, there's still local yellows out at the next corner, and that has stopped Leclerc from being able to mount an attack. So essentially, George Russell's DNF has just absolutely saved me. So thank you very much, George Russell. But you can see now, fast forwarding a few laps, we're absolutely on the hunt for a race win. The gap is now only a second to Max Verstappen. We're carving our way through the lap traffic. We pulled out 5 seconds to Charles Leclerc. And now we're caught up to the back of Stroll. Is he going to get out our way? He doesn't get out the way. What are you doing, man? What are you doing getting in our way? Now he's drag racing us down the line. One thing though, I did get the DRS off of him, which has helped out a little bit, but the gap stays a second, and that last sector of the track as well, definitely my strongest point of the circuit at the moment against Verstappen, as Hulkenberg is now out of the Grand Prix. He's also got an engine failure, a little bit of contact there with Gasly as he tried to get through, but Hulkenberg will now exit driver's left, and that is him done for the day. We now start the final lap of the Grand Prix. The gap, half a second to Max Verstappen. It's extended out to 8 seconds now over Charles Leclerc. So the one stop, probably not the way to go. We've got the DRS open as we head down the straight, up into turn 3. We're gaining on Max, but we decide not to go for the move after our incident that we had with Charles Leclerc. I reckon, though, we can get the better traction. We absolutely do get the better traction. Tiny bit of wheel spin. But no! Max Verstappen, he's got the DRS off the back market there. He's got the DRS off the back marker. And who is it? It's an RB. Oh, the sister teams working together here to help Max Verstappen maintain this race win, because what a point for him to get DRS off a lap marker, and then Lawson will immediately, as soon as Max catches up, gets out the way. And my God, unless I have an absolutely wicked last 2 corners, I'm finishing P2 here. The gap's 0.7 of a second. We're keeping it within track limits. Don't want to get any more warnings for the track limits, and now we'll dump whatever ERS we've got left and a bit of DRS, and unfortunately it's a P2, but what a good situation to be in. I'm disappointed with P2. Boy, we're turning the season
The
around.
checkered flag is out. We're going to be hearing that Dutch national anthem again, because it's victory for Max Verstappen.
I mean, it looked like they were in a different category at points during the race, led every lap. I mean, what more can we say?
It's been a hard afternoon of brilliant racing, but now it's time for some proper celebrations. The podium awaits. And for those that have missed the Dutch national anthem, fear not. It's back again, because Max Verstappen is back on the top step.
So, Max Verstappen has won the Austrian Grand Prix after a last lap showdown with myself, in the end narrowly missing out. I actually think the back market definitely saved Max Verstappen, because he got the DRS in the last proper overtaking spot, which helped him with his straight line speed down that straight, and in the end the margin of victory was only 2.5 tenths, so very, very close, and that is also Max Verstappen's 70th career victory here in Formula 1. Leclerc's also up on the podium, where maybe the one stop definitely didn't work for him, definitely after starting on the front row. The rest of the top 10, though, Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, Oscar Piastri, a very good recovery from those three, since all three of them actually missed the final part of qualifying, being knocked out in qualifying too. Sonny Hayes, Yuki Tsunoda, Carlos Sainz, and Kimi Antonelli rounds out the points. George Russell's a non-finisher with Nico Hulkenberg, and he retired that late into the race. He's actually still classified as 3 laps down. As now we take a look at the Drivers' Championship. Max Verstappen extends his lead to 84 points over Lando Norris. Lewis Hamilton moves up into 3rd now, 125 points behind myself. In 7th, only 1 point behind George Russell. Sonny Hayes is in 9th, 43 points behind Charles Leclerc. Then Red Bull lead the Constructors' Championship by 91 points to McLaren, eking out that lead even further. Ferrari sit 3rd, 151 points behind. Apex GP, we're now 4th, 64 points behind Ferrari, and we've, as I said before, definitely turned this season around. For our driver ratings, our experience, racecraft, pace, and focus have all gained points with awareness now to level 82 for an overall rating of 85. And our driver recognition has also bumped back up to 55% against our teammate Sonny Hayes. And wow, what an episode. If you did enjoy that, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next episode where we head to Silverstone, the home of Formula 1, for the British Grand Prix. I'll see you then.